Well, hello there, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're safe and well. This video is all about chronographs. So let's get on with it. Roll the titles. Well, as I said in the intro, this video we're going to be looking at chronographs. I've got one each of the three different types of airgun chronograph. We're going to be looking at each of them. We're going to be testing them against each other just to see, try and work out how accurate they are. And then we'll talk about why I think it's important that every airgun owner has a chronograph in their armoury. So let's crack on and take a look at the individual chronographs we'll be looking at, shall we? Okay, the first chronograph we'll be looking at is the relatively new NateChrony, which is a shoot-through chronograph that attaches to the end of the barrel of your air rifle. Then we'll look at the standalone shoot-through chronograph. This is the one that I've used quite a lot on the channel so far. And then last but not least is the FX, which works on wireless technology, a radar. It's a radar chrono. So first let's take a look at the NateChrony then. This is relatively new to the market. The most recent chronograph that I've bought, and the reason that I bought it is because I read about the accuracy of these. Now I've read a little bit about these chronographs, and they've been independently certified and calibrated by the National Measurement Institute in Australia, and they have a claimed variance of less than 1 feet per second at 1,000 feet per second. And as I understand it, the way that it works is Nate has a master chrono that was the one that was calibrated. In fact, might have more than one. And that is used to test every successive chronograph against before it's shipped out. So I know that this chrono that I've got here has been tested against that master chronograph that was independently certified and calibrated. So it should be one of the most accurate chronographs that's available on the market. So I'm going to use this as my master chronograph to test the other chronographs against to see how they compare. Now it comes with a power lead. As you can see, it's quite compact. Don't take too much notice of this bit on the end, which is an adapter. It comes in the kit with an adapter that slots in that's got a half UNF thread, and also you can get adapters if you've got like a larger barrel or you haven't got half UNF. If you've got something that's fairly peculiar, then I believe that you can get a bespoke adapter made by the company. But I've just sort of 3D printed an adapter that goes on the outside of my moderators, just to make it easier. So you've got USB-C power port on the side there that where the power lead plugs in, and it powers up either by a battery pack. So if I turn it over so you can see the lights coming on when I power it up. So look there, and you can see the lights flashing there, and then they go solid, so that's already powered up. But if you haven't got a battery pack, you can also use your phone. So I need to swap that lead out, plug in a C to C, plug in the back of my phone, and you can see again that it powers up and the light comes on. Now what you can do once this is powered up, you can shoot through it, and it will, as I understand, it will store the your shots. So then you can plug it into your phone or plug it into your computer to read the results. It doesn't use an app, it actually uses a website. and I'll show you that a little later when we start using it in practice. But all your results come out on sort of like a web page, which means that oh, and the unit connects to your phone wirelessly on a direct link between the two. So it means that you can use a phone. I've used this with a phone that I use for videoing that doesn't even have a SIM card in it, and it will still connect up and display the results, which is pretty neat. So you don't have to worry about having data on your phone and having a good data connection if you want to use this out on the range. So that's the NateChrony then. Let's move on to the next one. Next up is my Acetech AC5000 chronograph then, which is a standalone shoot-through chronograph, which is this one that you may have seen on the channel before, because I've used it for a lot of my pellet testing and power testing of the different air rifles. Now, a lot of people are put off by these because they're generally marketed as airsoft chronographs, but they all work perfectly well with an air rifle, and they're quite reasonably priced compared to some of the other brands as well. So this is battery powered, also has a mini USB socket at the back, so it can be powered from a battery pack. And you can see you just shoot through the hole there, and there are two detectors. Like the NateChrony, I haven't found that this misses any shots because it's all fairly dark inside, so there's no reason why it would you know, it would miss a shot that went through it. The batteries seem to last for ages. I think I've still got the original batteries in this that when I bought it. The only thing is with this, you can set your ammo, and it remembers the ammunition settings, but it doesn't remember the last string of shots you took. So as soon as you power off, it loses all your shot data. So you do need to go round afterwards and write that all down. But also the nice thing about this is it's got the tripod thread, standard camera thread in the bottom. And what I tend to do is I've got my Rockstead shooting rest, and I can unscrew the head of this, and it makes an ideal rest. If I screw that in there, into that hole there, it makes an ideal rest for this chrono, and very convenient to use. So that's chrono number 2. And last but not least is the FX Airguns wireless chrono. I think, is this the Mark 1 version? And you've got a radar or wireless transmitter here, sends out a signal that bounces back off the pellet to the unit, and then it reads the speed of the pellet. This one, obviously there's no screen or anything on it. You need to use it in conjunction with an app on your phone. Disregard the black plate here. I bought this secondhand and it was cheap because it didn't have a battery plate, so I just 3D printed one. Now these have got a reputation for eating batteries. I haven't found that myself, but what I have done is I've found that when the batteries start to get low, even when you get the green light here to say that the battery's good, if the battery's not at peak performance, it does seem to affect the way that the chrono performs. But what I have got to replace the batteries, and you can pick these up quite cheaply on eBay, is a battery replacement unit that goes in. Hence I've made the little slot in my cover. So you slot these little replacement blocks in place of the batteries, and then you've got the USB to work in a power pack, so you can run it off a power pack to ensure that your the power to your unit's always top notch, and hopefully that will avoid any issues with reliability. So that's the FX then. Let's take a look at how you get the readings out of the NateChrony then. So we'll power it up first. I've got my phone here. And we're waiting for the light to come on. Okay, and the first thing we need to do is to connect up with the Wi-Fi. So I go into my Wi-Fi connections and you'll see Chronograph is shown up there. I'll select Chronograph, ask it to connect. We'll come out of that, so we know we're connected. Now what I need to do is to open up the web page, and I've got that saved here, NateChrony web page, and there we go, simple as that. So you can see here we're in the main page. It's remembered my last shot string, and you can see here we can actually save 4 shot strings. Shot string 1, 2, 4, and we can clear each of those shot strings on here. We can clear all of the shots, so if I want to clear the last shot that I made, I just tap there and it will clear it. We can clear all of those shots, so if I want to clear the last shot string that I took, you can see it goes back to 0. The one thing you can't do is you can't select individual shots to delete. But you'll notice here that with each of the shot strings, it will give you the minimum, the maximum shot, it will give you the average, gives you the spread, and it gives you the standard deviation, which is quite good. So let's just go in the menu screen and show you that. The setup. You can put a comment in. Obviously, I've got BSA Ultra there because I last used it with that. You can set the pellet weight, so if I was using 8.4 grains, I would put 8.4 in there and set, and you'll notice that that will convert that and tell you that the pellet weight is also 0.5443 grams. If you'd prefer to use grams, you can set your pellet weight in the gram thing. You can get it to shout out the shots, either the speed of the shot, the power of the shot, or both. I've currently got that set to none. And as you can see here, I've got my units set to imperial, which is feet per second, rather than metric, which is meters per second, obviously. So that's the menu then. Extra little bits of setup like the Wi-Fi and stuff there. And you can go in, we go back to the shoot menu. So here we're looking at the screen of the AC5000 then. It's quite simple controls on this one. There are basically 4 pages, and you move between the pages with the left and right. If I move that across, with the left and right keys, and then in the individual pages up and down with obviously the up and down keys. So this is the first page then. The 0 showing that we haven't got any shots at the moment. As we take each shot, that will go up. I've actually got this set to imperial, so the bottom figure would show feet per second. The top figure is for automatic weapons for airsoft, and that's rounds per second, so we can ignore that. Go to the next page, you'll see that that will give you the energy, again feet per second and rounds per second, but also we've got the ammo here. There are 5 memories for your ammunition. So at the moment you can see there we've got 4.5mm ammunition, which is 177 caliber. At 0.55 grams, which I believe that's 8.44 grains, and we go down 51 grams for, we go up, and then 5.5, that's 2.2 ammo, 1.03 grams, and then down to the 5th one. And those ammunition settings are remembered when it's switched off, but the shot strings aren't remembered. So we go back up to ammo 1, so that's the second string. Second screen. Go to the third screen, and that will basically show you all the successive shots. Now I believe that this chronograph will record up to 40 shots, but usually I only do 10 shots at a time. And then we click the right button again, and we go to the settings screen, and as you can see we can go up and down with the up and down arrows, so we can set the different settings of the ammunition. So if we wanted to set number 5, we'd just go across to the weight, and we can use the up and down keys to set the weight, and go across and use the up and down to set the caliber. And then we come out of that, go down to exit, and then we can come out the screen again. The units, I'll go into the units, and you can see there we've got, if I go up to speed, I can set meters per second or feet per second, and again go down to exit, and then we just come out. You've got, I don't know what APO is. I don't know what that is, APO. You can turn the backlight, adjust the backlight and the contrast, and reset the unit. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple really. So that's the controls for the AC5000. Right, let's have a look at the FX then. And as I mentioned before, this runs from an app on the phone. Now, recently I had a problem with my phone and I got locked out, so I had to reset it. So I actually lost all the apps and I've lost all the data. So I've just had to reinstall this FX app for this video. So let's open the app. And then as you can see, what it's going to be doing then is trying to connect wirelessly to the unit. So we'll power the unit on so that it can find it. And as soon as it finds it, it connects up, and there you can see the base screen. So we've got the feet per second readout. There's stats, last 5 shot, obviously nothing in there because we haven't shot yet. You notice it's set to airgun UK, so it knows that the velocity range is going to be roughly between 440 to 820 feet per second. Now at the moment here we're just in sort of like standard mode. If you want to store your data for different rifles or pistols and different ammunition, you can create individual profiles for a rifle and a particular pellet type. As I said, all my data has been wiped, so this is pretty blank at the moment. But set for Airgun UK here, this will just give you the information as and when you use it, but it won't give you any indication when it's stored of what that data relates to. Personally, I found it's not the easiest of apps to use, and it takes a bit of getting used to work out what you need to press to get to what. But to go into the rifle profiles, you click the rifle icon and then click select profile, and this will show you all the profiles that are within the app at the moment. If you want to create your own profile, you can't modify the default profiles, so you can't go into Airgun UK and rename that. That's always going to stay the same. So if you want to create your own profile, you press there and you see you get custom profile come up. I select that custom profile, and then I can go into edit it, go to general, and then what you can do, click on the name there, and you can change that name. So say for example I was going to be using my Air Arms S400, I can call that profile AAS 400, so I know it's that rifle. I can set the magazine size if I want to. Let's close that down there, and then we can put the projectile in. So this profile will be for one rifle and one particular pellet. So if I go into here, I can either add the data in myself, the weight, the caliber and the make, or I can choose from the database. So if I go down and say, for example, I was using Air Arms Field, I can select that. And that profile then is set up. So we can close that screen there, and you can see Air Arms S400 with the Air Arm Field 177 8.4 grain. You can add an image of the rifle, and you can add an image of the pellet tin as well to help you out on that. So that's how that works there. Every time you take some shots, you create a string, and they're all stored separately. So you can go in here, select any. We've got no strings saved at the moment, so you can find a particular string that you want to view, and it gives you all the data. You can save it to the unit. So you can see it. As I say, it's not that intuitive. It does take a little bit of playing around with to work out how it works, but once you get on top of it, it's not too bad, but a little bit more playing around than both of the other two chronos. So that's the FX app then. This is the arrangements for the first chronograph accuracy test then. As you can see, I'm using my AirArms S400 177 PCP. We've got the NateChrony attached to the moderator with the mod adapter that I made, and then the AC5000, and they're so close as the distance to be really insignificant, so I'm going to just sort of negate the distance. And what I'm using, I've got I'm going to put 10 pellets through. I've sorted the pellets, and they're 8.4 grain to plus or minus 5/100ths of a grain. So they're all pretty similar weight, and I've weighed all 10 and I get near enough spot on 84 grain from the 10 pellets. Try and keep things as straightforward as possible. So I'm not going to show you me shooting. As soon as I finish the shooting, we'll just look at the results. Okay, let's have a look at the results of the first test then, put them up on the screen. And that's the NateChrony compared to the AC5000. So as you can see there, NateChrony saying an average feet per second of 748, which gives 10.43 foot-pounds, spread of 10.9, say 11, and a standard deviation of 3.5. Now if we look over at the AC5000, that's reading a little bit lower, an average of 741, 10.25, which is what, 10.3 foot-pound. Spread is a bit higher and the standard deviation is a bit higher. Now bit surprised at that, because when I'd done this test, and it's not the first time that I've done this test. When I first got the NateChrony, I did this test, and they came out, both chronos came out at very close. But if you look down at the end here, particularly shot 8, there's quite a spurious shot there. It's a lot lower than the rest, and then we've got a 735 and a 733. And if you look at the results further up, they're a lot closer together. So I'm sort of a little bit suspect to those last 3 results. For some reason, that chronograph decided to report those a lot lower than a lot lower than certainly the other shots that it was recording. So I can't account for that. But anyway, if there is a difference, then for the sake of safety, you'd want your chrono to be slightly under reading than slightly over reading. So there you go then, that's the first test. Well, let's crack on and do the second one and look at how the NateChrony compares to the FX Mark II. Okay, so now we're going to check the accuracy of the FX chronograph against the NateChrony. This is the arrangement that I've got. We're outside because we need a bit more space for the radar, the wireless system to work. So I've got my back box a little bit further forward to give it a bit more space. Again, we are shooting 10 shots, JSB exact pellets, weighed out to 8.4 grain plus or minus 5/100th of a grain. That's 0.05. So that's the test complete, the NateChrony versus the FX, and I'm pleased to say no missed shots on the part of the FX. Can be a little bit temperamental at times. It's all obviously dependent on where you put the chronograph, but where I had it slung on the moderator just behind the NateChrony, it seemed to read every shot, so that's good. So running down the results then, we've got NateChrony saying 7.57 roughly, we'll round it up, average feet per second, which is 10.68 or 10.7 foot-pounds. Spread of 6.8, standard deviation of 2.3. If we go along and look at the FX, one thing to note there is the results it gives are rounded up, so you don't get any decimal points. But looking down there, we've got 762 which is 10.83, spread 6 and standard deviation 2.3. So spread and standard deviation is very similar, and we're about looking at that about 0.1 foot-pound out. So actually then that's showing that the FX Mark II was quite accurate in this regard. One thing that I would say, you might notice that the results for the NateChrony through the same rifle are slightly different than the first 10 shots. I did charge the rifle up to 180 bars, and I know from testing that the sweet spot for that rifle, being an unregulated rifle, starts at about 170 bars, and the power or the muzzle velocity does flatten out a little bit from there. So obviously those first 10 shots, you know, that's taking it down to about the 170, which is why you've got a better result with a better spread and a better standard deviation in the second 10 shots. That being said, a spread, even you know, on an unregulated rifle, a spread of 11 foot-pound and a standard deviation of 3.5 is pretty excellent. There's a lot of regulated guns that won't improve upon that. So yeah, so anyway, there you go. They're the results. As you can see, not anything really significant. I was quite surprised by the FX. I know you know, some people suggest that they're not that accurate because of the way that they record the shots, or you know, you can't believe the information you give them. But we can see here that there's not too much difference. I mean, it does overread slightly compared to the NateChrony, but not that significant that it's going to be dangerous. I mean, we're talking about what, 759 compared to 762, so 3 feet per second and 0.1 foot-pound. So yeah, so quite interesting results there anyway. Okay, let's move on and address the question of why you need to have a chronograph or access to a chronograph so that you can test your rifles. But the first thing, I've got my list here. The first thing is the obvious one. That's the legal issue. As you're aware, I hope you're aware, you know, to legally hold an air rifle, own an air rifle and use an air rifle without a firearms certificate, it needs to be below 12 foot-pounds of power. And the only way that you're going to test that is using a chronograph. So always handy to have a chronograph to make sure that all times your rifle is legal, especially if you're going to start shooting different weight pellets or if you're going to do some tinkering. And you know, if you do get a chronograph in your rifle, it's always a good idea to try the heaviest pellet you can get hold of for it and the lightest, to make sure that at both ends of those spectrum you're not going over that power limit. So that's the first one, then the legal aspect. The second one is you might want to find the power curve of your rifle, especially if you want to shoot competitively and you're using a rifle that isn't regulated. The rifle that I used in my tests is an Air Arms S400 that's not regulated, and I did a power curve check on that to find the sweet spot. Now the way that you do that is you fill the cylinder on the rifle up to its maximum safe pressure. You leave the cylinder so that you've got access to the cylinder gauge connected on the rifle, and then you shoot the rifle down, recording the muzzle velocity and the pressure left in the cylinder. And you'll find that as the cylinder pressure decreases, so does the muzzle velocity. When you've got all of those results, you will find that there's a certain range of pressures, a maximum and a minimum pressure, where the muzzle velocity, when you plot them on a graph, is quite flat. There's not much of a curve there. And that maximum pressure, where you find the start of that flat part of the curve, and is the sweet spot. That is the point that you would normally charge your rifle up and know that for the next 30 or 40 shots, you're going to get a fairly consistent muzzle velocity. So the only way you're going to find that out is using the chronograph. Now, if that doesn't make much sense, I have done a video. If you go onto the channel, I'll put a link up on the screen of which video it is. And I did do a demonstration of how to do the power curve, find the sweet spot and measure the power curve with that very rifle. So if you're interested, take a look at that. The next use for a chronograph is if you're doing pellet testing. Now, if you start mixing up pellets from different manufacturers, they all use a different mixture of lead and antimony. The amount of antimony in the mix determines how hard the lead is, whether it's a softer lead like JSB tend to use, or a harder lead like H&N tend to use. And depending on how hard the lead is, will determine how effectively the pellet passes through the barrel of your rifle. So your velocity is going to change. So when you're doing your pellet testing and you're trying to work out your accuracy, it's quite handy to have the data of the muzzle velocity at the same time, so that when you're getting good results, you can have a look at that muzzle velocity and see the speed at which the rifle prefers to shoot to provide better accuracy. Another reason for using a chronograph is if you want to tinker around with your rifle and improve its accuracy. Now, a lot of people I see online are always talking about, oh, my gun's underpowered. You know, how can I raise the power up and get the power higher? All in this endeavour to get as close as they can to 12 foot-pounds. Now, you'll notice the results that I've got here for this rifle. We had, you know, it was about 10.5 between, you know, about 10.5 to just under 11 foot-pounds the power on this rifle. So we're a long way from the limit. So it's a very safe rifle from that respect. And also at that power level, it is a very accurate rifle. Now, I'm pretty certain that if I started fiddling around with it and I tried to raise the power level, that I would interfere with that accuracy. The rifle does like to shoot at that lower level. So, you know, don't be misled into thinking that you need to have, you know, 11.5 foot-pounds or above to be accurate. Sometimes, you know, 10.5 or just 11 or slightly below is all you need to get the best out of the rifle you own. Just remember that point. And the final thing that I've got on my list, the reason for having for owning a chronograph, is for fault detection and diagnosis. Okay, your first port of call when you think that your rifle isn't performing the way that it normally does. You know, sometimes it's just a case of a dirty barrel, but you know, first port of call, if you think there's something wrong with your rifle, it's not performing as normal, put it over the chrono, have a look to see if there's any change in the power level, and that's often a useful indicator that there's some issue that needs to be addressed, or you know, it needs a repair, or it might be new seals or something like that. I mean, the chrono readings on my HW97 were the first indication that the spring had broken. I didn't notice a significant reduction in the accuracy, but I did know that something was wrong. And when I did the chronograph test, I noticed that the rifle dropped from about 10.5 foot-pounds down to 9.5 foot-pounds, which prompted me to have a look at the internals and find that the spring was broken. So it's a useful tool for helping you to diagnose where there might be faults or repairs necessary with your rifle. So there you go then. There's a few reasons why it's always good to have a chronograph accessible for you to use to check a number of things. So there you go then. We've done some testing of all these three different types of chronograph, and we've looked at why you might need one. One thing that we haven't looked at is price and what one might be best for you. So we're going to go through them then. We'll start with the cheaper end. I just had a quick look online or on Amazon for two of them, and the other one from the same site that I bought mine from. So starting with the cheapest then, the Acetech AC5000. I mean, if you shop around, you might get it cheaper, but at the time that this video was made, they're going on Amazon for just over £60. Okay, I think if you shop around, you might be able to pick them up for 50. So that's not bad, you know, for quite a reliable, well, not to say quite reliable, for a very reliable chronograph, long-lasting batteries, easy menu, and doesn't miss any shots. Moving up to the next, then we've got the NateChrony. I bought this from Vector Air. I think there are a couple of other UK suppliers that you can buy from, and at the moment on their website they're showing these at £125. So basically that's twice the cost of that. Is it twice as good? Well, I mean, it's very compact. You don't need the app. The software, the way that it works is very good, but say you may need to buy an adapter if you want to use a moderator on your rifle when you use it. If you're not worried about the noise, if you're using it down a range and you haven't got any noise restrictions, then it comes with two 1/2-inch UNF adapters that will screw straight onto your barrel, so you haven't got to worry. But I think I'm not sure how much the adapters are. You'd have to look that up. But that's obviously something that you've got to, you know, you've got to pay extra for. And then last but not least, is the most expensive of them all. This is the FX Mark II. Now this is quite an old model now, and at the moment on Amazon these are going for £155. So sort of another £25 above that, and you know, roughly 3 times the cost of that. And this is an older model. There are newer versions that are likely to be a little bit more than that. I don't know by how much, but say this is probably the cheapest one, you know, on the market at the moment, the older version. So there you go, quite a bit of a difference in price. These are known to be a little bit temperamental. Sometimes they don't pick up, you know, I've seen people try and use these with very light pellets, like the 7-grain pellets, and it doesn't pick those up for some reason. Needs to be positioned properly. I know sometimes I've seen a video online where somebody took theirs apart because it was playing up, and it turned out that the innards, the inside reflector was angled back slightly because of the way it had been fitted, and it needs to be exactly parallel with the front plastic of the case. So if yours is playing up, you might want to have a look at that. Have a search on YouTube, see if you can find that video, and you know, it's only 4 screws to open it up. That might be solve your issues. But certainly the shoot through ones, both of these, I mean, since I've had both of these, they've never missed a shot. Then because they're not affected by the light or anything, the pellet comes out the end of the muzzle, goes straight through. So and across the indicators or the detectors, so there's not an issue with these. Say the only difference between these two, this one's independent, this one goes straight on the barrel. The nice thing about these is that you can use these in a confined space. If you do use them indoors, I would say, you know, safety is priority. Make sure you've got a good backstop. You don't want to start putting pellets in your furniture or in your walls. You know, some people claim that you can use these indoors, but you do need to leave enough space for the radar to work, for the wireless section to work. So you'd probably need a little bit more space. Myself, I wouldn't be too. I've not used this inside, and as you saw in the test, I went outside, used it in the garden. So there you go. Then you pay your money and you take your choice. What would I choose? I think you know, if money was tight, I think you could do a lot worse than have one of these. Before I got this Chrono, I did have one of those cheap black plastic Chronos from China that are about £20. The one I had only measured in meters per second, but it's easy enough to convert that. and I managed with that for quite a while until I inadvertently shot one of the little bulbs out the bottom. Don't know how that happened. And then I needed one quickly, so I bought this, and it ended up, I did my research, bought this, and it ended up being a good purchase. So I would, you know, if you're on a bit of a budget, I would recommend one of these. I've seen there are a few people that I know use these, and it is a reliable unit, and you won't be disappointed with it. Say, if you find anything like this, don't be put off by any reference to airsoft. It works perfectly okay with pellets. So we come to the end of yet another video. Hope you found that useful. It's something that I haven't seen anybody else do, and I've been meaning to do it for quite a while. So yeah, I hope you found that interesting and useful. If you haven't got a chrono, please, you know, seriously consider getting yourself one, just to make sure that you stay within the law. And then once you've got one, you start using it. I think you'll find that it's quite a useful bit of kit to have. If you like the video, then please give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, then subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, and if you hit the bell icon, you'll be notified when I put out another video. Also, if you subscribe and give me a like, it helps with the YouTube algorithm, so the YouTube recommends this video to other people in our airgunning community who might find this interesting. So that's all I've got for this one then. Hopefully see you next time. From me, bye for now.